Are you looking for a no-nonsense, cut straight to the chase type of guide? For dummies, if you will? Yeah, I got you. When you click challenge, you do all your limited challenges. Don't worry about that. Now, let's make this as simple as humanly possible, right? First things first, before we even start thinking about what kind of units or what to pull, we need to understand where power comes from in this game, and it's the gear dungeons. There's no such thing as choice when it comes to these dungeons. This is the only dungeon that exists. There's only a red dungeon. I'll explain. Red dungeons give you all the stats that are necessary for every single unit. They give you both attack in all forms, and then they give you defense in all forms. Damage is calculated by the amount of attack that you have in various forms and the amount of defense the enemy has in various forms. The other thing that red dungeons give you is speed. So we've established that you get the ability to attack and do damage. You get the ability to defend damage taken, right, to be tanky. And then you now get the ability to determine move order priority. So when you get to attack, this is an offensive ability and very good for PvP. So now that we've established that the red dungeon is the only dungeon that exists, what's the purpose of these other two? Well, they do more. Hear me out. The blue dungeon is once you have sufficient red pieces on your gear, specifically you have damage and your opponents have defense. So you're not doing as much damage to them because they have a lot of defense. So now, because you're doing less damage, mid-game, you start looking into this gear set so you can get your crit chance. Because your crit chance is going to allow you to crit and do more damage to circumvent the fact that they have more defense. Does that make sense? Now, you're going to start killing them because they have more defense, which then prompts them to go into this dungeon so that they can get HP, so they can be tankier for longer. HP doesn't make them tanky, it just allows them to stay as tanky as they are with this set for a much longer period of time. That's all that's happening. It's a do more dungeon. It's a do more. On the green side, it's another do more, but with this one, now that you are critting, right? And now the enemy has higher HP, so now they are tankier for longer. Now it makes the fights a little bit longer. Then mid to late game, you start looking at this section where you start getting defense penetration in all forms. What does that allow you to do? That allows you to ignore a certain percentage of the defense, but this is only valuable assuming that they have a lot of defense. Does that make sense? Right? So now you're ignoring a bigger percentage of the defense. So now your crit chance can do more damage. And now because you're also getting penetration, now you also have crit damage, right? So now not only are you critting with penetration to do more damage, you could also be critting with crit damage to do more damage, or both. That's how you're going to be getting the most amount of damage. Now, of course, when you include speed, you have to sort of, you play around. Now you're starting to talk about substats and getting good substats and all of that stuff. I actually do think that speed is more of a late game thing for PvP specifically. But other than that, it's up to you guys how you want to form this. I'm just showing you guys how to fish. That's basically how you want to think about this. These two are do more dungeons. Or another way to think about them is early to late game, you're going to be farming this all the way through. Mid to late game, you're going to be farming this all the way through. Late game, this is very late game. So late game, you're going to be farming this all the way through. And it's actually not even all the way through. It's just until you get the right pieces that you need for the right specific characters. And then you go back to farming these all the way through and more of these for the specific units and all of that good stuff. Cool. Now that we understand that, why is this important? What does that tell us about the game? Well, first and foremost, mono teams. When you have an advantage versus your enemy, you get a 20% increased damage boost and a 10% increased crit chance boost. This first one is all red, therefore blue is going to be the first team you want to build. The second one is all blue, therefore you guessed it, green is going to probably be the second team you probably want to build. The last one is, can you guess it? Can you guess it? It's green, therefore red is the last team you would probably want to build. I've laid it out as simply as I can. Now you're gonna have somebody who's going to say, no, crit penetration, this and listen. If you don't have crit chance, if you don't have crit rate, your crit damage is useless. Doing less damage because you're not critting. So what's the point? But hey, do what you gotta do. Let me explain some other stuff. So if you're starting right now when we have the season 1 banners and you haven't summoned anything quite yet, good. I'm glad you haven't summoned anything just yet, because now you're sitting at a point where you can actually get some value here. Now, the amount of summons I've done is 90 plus I did 10 in here, and then I did all the free summons in here for the 6 days that I've been playing, right? So the 10 in here, if you are wondering why I even popped the 10 in here, is because I was testing my luck. I wanted to see if I could get a copy of Red Yami. Keep in mind, based on the gear dungeons that I showed you guys, Red is the last team that you should be building, right? That's how you look at it. So because right now the only blue teams that exist are in here, right? She's blue, and the second team you want to be building is what? Is green. Blue, green. So this is a good banner to go into. The Asta is okay, but it's not something you need to really progress through the story. Not to say that you shouldn't build him. Let other people build the Asta. Maybe get a copy, but let other people build the Asta. Right? You just grab him as a support. People are going to build Asta. He's the main character. You grab him as a support. Get the LR level 100. Push through your story. Get it done. But that's how you want to go about it. So in this banner, you're really looking for a couple characters. I'll show you just now. In here, of course, you're looking for the seasonals. Either or, it doesn't really matter. You want all of them. You want at least 2 copies, and then you can get the other one for free in game later on. But the main thing is, in here you're looking for blue units. Ideally you're looking for a blue tank. Who's a blue tank? He's a blue tank. Oh, guess what? You're looking for a blue attacker. Here's your blue attacker. Probably don't want to get him though, but even if you get him, it doesn't matter. Whatever you get, man, whatever you get, I'm trying to make this as general as possible. I'm just trying to stick to no meta vibes, but by default you're going to get into the meta whether you like it or not. Now this is a tank, and then for your debuffers you can see that there's 2 debuffers here. He is the better one of the 2, and they always say reroll for this guy at the beginning of the game, so most likely you have him, so there's no need to talk about this. You have your debuffer. You're looking for a tank. Hopefully you could get this guy. You never know. You're looking for Yami, you're looking for Mars, and you're looking for a water healer. The only one that exists is legitimately her. It's not even a matter of meta slave. She is legitimately the only blue healer. I mean, I don't understand. You can't even get this wrong. She's legitimately the only healer. Alright, now that we've established that she's the only blue healer, it's not meta. There's no such thing as a meta slave. It's just the fact you need the healer. This is the only one. Done. You need a tank. This is the only SSR tank. He happens to also be meta because he's the only one. He's the only one. So he's the tank. The next option is, oh, guess what? It's her. Again, she's the only other tank outside of an SSR. She's the only SR blue tank. Of course she's meta, because she's the only option. So you get your 2 tanks, and then now attackers is where you could go wrong a little bit more. But according to everything I've seen, they say this guy is viable. They say this guy is viable. They say, of course, he's viable. Nobody talks about this guy, and nobody talks about this guy. But I would argue, if you read their skills, you'd probably know why. But also at the same time, if they're the only blue attackers you got, you really don't have much of a choice, right? So if you pulled in this banner and you got one of these two characters, you really don't have much of a choice. You didn't get any of these, you're gonna have to build one of these guys, assuming you don't want to reroll. If you're going to reroll, go ahead and reroll. Otherwise, hey man, stick with what you're sticking with. Now, we didn't talk about supporters. Supporters are more of a mid to late game thing, so don't worry about that too much. Supporters just help your team do mores. Not really something you need at the beginning when you want to just do something. That's all you're looking for here. You're looking for your blue team. Ideally, you've pulled some of your blue team from your selective summons, mainly a Lotus. If possible, you got a Lotus and a Charmy in the same pool, or you got a Lotus and maybe a Soul in the same pool, just in case you don't get a Lotus. I mean, a Mars. Cool. Now that we've sorted that part out, and we've established that it's not about being a meta slave, it's about the fact that there's only those options available by building a standard RPG party, which has existed since the dawn of time, and nobody's copying anybody. Everybody knows when you play a strategic RPG game, you have a tank, you have an attacker, you have a healer, and you have some kind of support. In this case, there's a support here and there's a debuffer. Debuffers are a little bit more valuable than supports because they actually put negative effects on the enemies, helping you do things. Versus supporters just put buffs and things on your team, helping you do more of the things you should be doing. Cool, we've established that. Now, should you be summoning for Yami? Just do a 10 pull. Or yes, no, it doesn't really matter, to be fair. You only have to build this guy in the late game. So do you need him right now? No. So why are you pulling for him? I don't know. The first team you need to be building is blue. So pull here if you want to test your luck like me with a 10 pull. Do a 20 pull. I don't know, man. Just, he's not necessary. The first team you want to build is blue. Just, that's it. All right. Of course, you can do this if you paid, all of that stuff. Don't go for any of the skill books. Don't worry about that. If you get some skill books in here, that's good. If you don't get them in here, don't overdo it. Just aim for the characters. That's pretty much it. Now let's look at normal challenges and let's just do a couple things. One, first of all, you're going to be doing a lot of bonds, bond experience, pushing this up with the story. So you're doing this in tandem to the story. So while you're doing story, you're doing bond patrol, and you're going to be doing it all on this first stage here, right? On this Kika Forest. You're doing story, you're doing bonds. You're doing story, you're doing bonds. You're pushing up your characters. You're unlocking your characters. You're getting them to UR, getting them to LR. Story bonds. Story for the potions, bonds for the unlocking levels. Once you have them, everything at 80, then you can start coming into the dungeons. You're pushing on your dungeons. You're pushing your dungeons as much as you can. You're getting pieces. If you still have levels to go, you go back outside. You go back outside, you do your bonds, you do your story, you do your bonds, you do your story. You come back in here. You're not farming any of this. You're just pushing the stages just to get as high as you possibly can. If you're at level 80 LR, so level 80 on your unit and LR, and then you're getting stuck and you still can't progress, now that's the hint that's telling you that, okay, you've already done your bonds to get to LR level 80. You've already done as much as you can and you're getting stuck on your dungeons. You've already been pushing story, and besides, you don't need any more story beyond that point because you're already at LR level 80. So what do? Any story that you get beyond that point is just going to be farming your characters. What do you do now? Cool. Now you start going into your actual gears. Right? Now, because you're getting stuck in the dungeon and you can't progress and you're at LR level 80, you start going into your actual gears and you start +4ing things, right? You start to +4 your pieces of gear, any SSR pieces that you have, you +4 them. You're looking for the main stat only. You're not looking for the substats. Main stat is the main thing you're looking for. As long as it aligns, you take that, you +4 the piece. You take that, you +4 the piece. You do that for every single one of your units. Every single one of your units, you take it and then you max +4, +4, +4, +4, every single thing. Even the SR stuff, by the way, you +4, right? Especially if you're getting stuck. Once you're done +4ing everything, you then go back into these challenges and you continue. You will be able to clear them. You push as much as you can. As soon as you start getting into the UR sections, use these on UR pieces. You just keep farming and keep redoing these, get more UR pieces, and keep actually plus 4ing your UR pieces. Eventually you get your power up. Once you have your power up and you can start farming, I would only recommend you would farm this until you have a sufficient amount of main stat URs and main stat that are +4. That's going to give you good enough value for where you are. If you are getting stuck, I wouldn't suggest you continue putting a lot of experience into your units. What the bottleneck you're facing is gear. It's not your level, it's your gear, right? Once you have your gear sorted and you can actually farm level 13 on the LR. Usually if you can farm level 13 and you're pretty much close to 140. Once you're at that 135, 138, close to 140, and you can clear 13, you can likely clear 14, and you can likely clear 15. You may not be able to farm them on auto, but you can clear them. You can then start farming your LR pieces, and the rest is history. At that point, you're pretty much Gucci. Now, what about everything else? What about the Evergreen Forest? What about the City District? What about Ice Cavern? What about the Memory Hall? What about the Hall of Illusions? Hall of Illusions, really don't have to overthink this too much. This, you're only really doing it at the moment to get the, you're doing it to get these pieces, and this is how you level up your skills. Early on, your skills are not the bottleneck. It's your gear, so don't worry about this too much. And also it's very easy to do. If you feel like you have a little bit of extra, you're also going to get a lot of this material anyway, and it's not going anywhere, so don't worry about Hall of Illusions too much. Memory Hall, just pop in here daily whenever you have these tickets here, and starting from World 1, clear everything. Clear this, clear this, clear that. If you're in World 2, you come in, you clear all 3 of these, you clear all 3 of these, and you do the same for every single world. And world is based on which chapter you have in the story. You just keep clearing everything until you finally, at the end of it, when you've cleared the entire story, you've cleared up to the end here, and you can just keep farming this over and over whenever these reset. Or you go back 1 and you farm this one here whenever the stuff resets. Either this one, I wouldn't farm this over here because it exists on 5. So this is the highest one you could farm there, and then this is the highest one you can farm there. Right, so this is the only ones you can choose between the two. Just up to you. I don't think it really matters, to be honest. And then we've spoken that you don't have to worry about Evergreen Forest unless quests are taking you to do this. You can do this if it requires you to do it via some kind of quest, and you don't have to do any of this stuff. Right, this is, yeah, you don't have to do any of this. Right, as you can see, it's not even, you can do it, but this is for gear. This is assuming you have gear already. You don't have to do this, right? So you don't worry about this. Once you have gear and you've hit the gear bottleneck and you want to start improving the gear even further, now you can start going into this. But this is mid game. Don't worry about that. It's a waste of stamina for now. Talent Seeds, a slight bit of waste of stamina. You can try it, but I would really just focus on pushing up as high as you can whenever you want to. And just, it's neither here nor there. The problem is the drop rates are kind of low for this material here, and what's really happening is you're going to be getting a lot of these green materials, and then when you go into your home base, you can actually upgrade or convert them to the red ones. Now finally, we are done with the guide. You basically know everything there is to know about getting out of the early game. The rest of it is more min-maxing things, right? So whenever you feel like it, you can then go into your skills and see however you feel. Do what you need to do on your skills. I would honestly just hold on to these. You don't really need to use them. Of course, just play the game, understand where you want to be dumping these and what you need them for, all of that good stuff. You don't have to worry too much about that. You may want to do your main damager though. Your main damager on the skills that you use, you level them up to 3 as much as you can. This one here, reduced SP +1. I mean, I guess I could, but it's neither here nor there. I'm not really facing an issue right now. I could do this one as well, where I could unlock everything here, because this is the AoE skill. This would be very good for PvP. As a matter of fact, I won't have enough, but I can just pop it anyway. It is what it is. I do love Yami, so I just need to make sure I get the rest of these, and then I can pop this, and it'll be a max skilled Yami piece. Plus I also have this as well, which is also giving me, when you pop it here, right, so just a little bit extra oomph, a little bit of extra damage, all of that good stuff. So may as well. And when it comes to enhancements, don't worry about this too much. If you get the character's dupe, go ahead and put that in there. Don't use any of this. It's not a matter of you can't use it or whatever the case may be. This is a universal enchantment, which stands to reason that it's extremely valuable because it can be used on any unit ever. So generally speaking, a good rule of thumb is don't use this. Even if it's your main unit, just don't use this, right? Save these up as much as you can, get out of the early game, get into the mid game, get into the late game, and then start to see where you need these based on your roster as it develops. Whether that's going to be for your PvP units, or because you don't need that to farm, by the way. Farming is perfectly fine. I can farm stage 15 without any of that. So that's something you need to remember. Then again, with your talents, these are just general stuff. You choose your 2 base stats and you just unlock these. These are not super necessary. You can do them just to unlock them for your main units, but I wouldn't focus too much on that. And then again, bonds, you're just pushing these as much as possible. Your main units, you're just maxing them out, to be honest. Might as well get the black crystals as well, so might as well. Plus also there's a quest that requires you to have a max reputation or a max bonded unit, but the main thing is you want to get them to 10. So I wouldn't really fault you if you got them to 10 and then you started using other characters to get those to 10 as well. It is what it is, but personally I just think just level them up all the way to max and then call it a day. Costumes are just costumes. You get, actually it's a really good feature for this game because you actually get a lot of free costumes. Like this is free as soon as you level them up in your bonds over here. You get the costume for free. Isn't that crazy? I know. Why can't more games do this? Why can't more games just give you a free costume? Charging you $24 for a costume. Are you playing? Not gonna buy that. Cool. Now we've done. That's pretty much everything we need to know about this side of the page. Of course, everything else on your passives. This unlocks with LR and this unlocks with the 2-star. So depending on who you want to 2-star on this section here, the way you determine that is looking at these passives, right? You want to make sure that this passive is worth the 2-star, unless of course you have a natural dupe of that character, then you can do that. Skill pages. To level them up, you need dupes of skill pages, but which skill page should you be using? Well, if the character has their own skill page, just throw that on. You really can't mess these up as long as you have them and you lock one copy of each, and you try to upgrade every single copy except for this one. This one seems like one that's kind of really good as just the standalone copy, so grants immunity to stun. So just even at level 1 without really anything else on it, this immunity is pretty good. So having multiple copies of this, just one single without any dupes into it, is pretty good. I don't think you need more than 2 because it's unlikely you're going to be using multiple characters like this, but I mean 2 should be fine. But in any case, that's kind of like lock a single copy and then lock a copy, just level them up. Now other people will give you other advice like, oh, you can sell these or whatever you can do with, I don't know, man. I always think with any game, just get a single copy. You never know. Things might be good, things might be bad. It might be good at some point, who knows? We don't know what kind of changes might come. I know people have played this, but I'm just playing it from the logic that I have. When you're on this page, clicking on this little management icon, you can then see your team power and you can play around with it, do things like that. I actually don't know how to keep it like this because it keeps switching out, which is a little bit annoying. Let's save that again, but it is what it is. Cool. Now that we have that, you've talked about everything from a power level perspective. Nothing here should stomp you. Everything in here is just a matter of time. You get these, you upgrade them. You get better gear, you upgrade that, your power goes up. Everything is just time-based things. Yo, thank you guys for watching so much. I appreciate every one of you guys. And just remember, you don't suck at the game. You just need to get good.
in a thriller, heart goes pum pum pum. Ghostly figures, they can get so bitter. Sure you want to enter, you can turn back now. You don't know where I've been. What's going on inside? Where the monsters like to come alive, come alive. Do you really wanna know me? I'm really not that cozy. It's up to you, so you decide, you decide. Would you love me up my words till the coffin's in the dirt? Try to break me like a curse, you know that will never work. I'm a little bit absurd, I like dancing on the verge. Anyone can love a pretty little mansion, but could you love a haunted, haunted house? Or could you love me now? A haunted, haunted.
See, now if this PvP could get some RTA, my goodness, I would be all for it. And I think there's a little bit of hints. I mean, this is the end of the video, so most of you guys are probably not watching this, but if you are, in the survey that we had 2 surveys, and they were talking about, they mentioned RTA in there, right? So I guess I'm just a sucker for just trying to find a game that has RTA, but they mentioned like something about RTA stuff, and I thought maybe they were teasing me, so that's why I decided to actually make a video about this game. And you know, because I want to find a game where I can play some RTA and enjoy myself. I hope they were not just teasing me and we were actually looking at something that's real. Look at how tanky my Mars is, bro. Look at the tank. Look at how heavy this dude is taking this damage, man. Nah, it's about to be crazy. It's about to be. Look at that. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna leave it on auto for the rest of this. I'm actually not. I'm just leaving it on auto because the other enemy team is on auto. It's only fair. So, and the auto, this is beautiful because you can sort of manage your skills and kind of have priorities on your skills. It's so cool. It's so cool. Please give us RTA, I hope. But even if they don't, I actually don't mind this PvP. It's the fact that I can customize my skills is actually not the worst thing in the world, and I'll definitely be covering a lot more of PvP. So if you guys are into that, for sure, come stick with me. That's it from me. My name is Major. Hope you guys will support the channel. Am I Challenger 5? Nope, not just yet, but I'll get there. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out.